on this beautiful sunny evening, and I'll try to have you out by 10:30. We'll start off with apologies. Go to Councillor Green. Sorry.
I have none at the minute, I don't think.
Okay. I'm not aware of any from ourselves. Councillor Mahan or Councillor Hawkes, if you have any apologies. Are they both there? Councillor Mahan, go ahead.
Both online, Chair, I believe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And Councillor McPhillips is there. Sorry, Seamus.
Apologies. Councillor McCann sent us apologies.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Councillor Hawkes, could you please put your camera on?
I cannot get it on. I'm sorry about this. I don't know what I've done here, but at the moment I can't get it on.
Donald will liaise with you. Okay, we'll move on to sign the minutes and confidential meetings of the meeting that was held on the 12th of March. That's already been done. We'll go to item number 3, and that is declarations of interest. Is there any declarations?
Chair, if I may just make a declaration, please, for the confidential staff report. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any others? No, that is fine. We will move on. The first item on the agenda is 4.1 is to consider reports on consultations, and it's over to Louise.
Thank you, Chair. So members, there are no papers for decision this evening, only for information, items for information. At 2.1, consultation responses submitted since the last P&R committee. That was from the Department of Finance, supplementary consultation on domestic rating measures. Consultations referred to other committees or advisory groups, so one to environmental services and another to arts, regeneration and community. And at 2.3, there are 7 items for noting, which are listed under 2.3. So members, the recommendation is that the council notes the information, additional information presented on consultations submitted since the last P&R, those referred to other committees and those included for noting at 2.3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody indicating, so could I have a proposal, please, for the recommendations? Councillor Donnelly, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Irving, thank you. Everybody agreed? We'll move on to item 4.2, which is financial matters, and we're over to Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So the financial matters report, members, includes management accounts, and then for noting the de-rating and transferred functions grant allocation from the Department for Communities. So in relation to the management accounts, members, it's for the 11-month period. So we're now currently heading into the production of management accounts for the period end of 31st of March 2025, which is the end of our financial year. They have been prepared and compare against actual expenditure to that profiled for the period. The net operating expenditure amounted to £37,670,276 out of a budget profiled for the period of £40,402,833. That leaves costs to be financed amounting to £39,863,943 out of a profiled budget of £42,294,500. The management accounts, members, includes investment income earned in the period. So that's 11 months of 859,000. So that's very welcome income for the council, which is specifically allocated to earmarked reserves. The management accounts also includes additional exceptional income. That figure has now been finalised with HMRC, and it's £525,637. So again, a very welcome boost for the council there in relation to the special legal regime for VAT, predominantly for leisure facilities. Just for noting then, members, we have received notification from the Department for Communities for the D-Rating grant and the Transferred Functions grant allocations for 25-26. They're detailed in section 3.1, and they are in line with what was included in the estimates return from the February meeting on the estimates. As of yet, the department has not confirmed the rate support grant contribution to the council for the year. So, Chair, subject to any queries, the recommendations was that the management accounts for the period ended 20th of February 2025 be approved, that the council notes a D-Rating grant and the Transferred Functions grant allocations from the department for 25-26.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Yeah, I suppose maybe this is not the right place to raise this, or I'm not sure, but the 2% that was allocated to the national insurance increase in the staff's wages, or that the extra money the council had to pay of 2%. I was listening to the radio yesterday, and it seems that British government did provide that extra investment to cover that, but that Stormont actually kept it and didn't give it. So all the councils in England, Wales, and I think Scotland all got the 2% to compensate for that raise. And because we're devolved here, Stormont got it, and they decided not to give it to our council. So when people maybe is asking why rates goes up, maybe they should think of that. You know, it's not the lowly councillors maybe that's always the fault.
Okay, Councillor Mahon.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just coming in to propose the recommendation set out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ovens.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I suppose it's more, well, first a comment and then followed up with a particular question. The comment would be the usual comment for me at meetings such as this. I mean, 7% variance by month 11 is not insignificant, as in it's not particularly normal, and it's not particularly good either, in the way that I will say it, you know, better to come in an underspend than an overspend position. But again, we need to be very cognizant that this council is deliberately not doing things that it should be doing on the grounds of cost saving and affordability. But here we go, for a third year in a row, we are reporting, or we're about to report, a very significant underspend. This, by month 11, we're at the guts of almost 3 million, 7%. You know, that is not within the margin of error. That is not a 1 or 2% variance either way. 7% is still very significant. But then, Chair, I suppose, and I think, if memory serves me right, it was you actually that made the proposal, and it's not so much a query with these set of management accounts, but perhaps the ones coming in a month or 2 months' time. But it's in relation to this issue of the 400,000 that was set aside in this year's rates process or estimates process for effectively councillor allowances. Now, that, Chair, that was something that you had proposed at the estimates meeting that we didn't do, because at that stage I think it was obvious to all that 400,000 was way over and above what was going to be needed. But we were, well, let's just say majority of the council took the advice of others on that. But can I check from memory, am I right, Catherine, in thinking, because we're only using a fraction of that 400,000, even though that's 1% on the rate, is it the fact that the remainder of that 400,000 that's not utilised all goes into reserves now? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ovens. So yes, you're correct in that the council has received notification of the intended increase from the Department for Communities, which was reported through to council. And yes, there will be a significant underspend in that budget area. So the budget is managed within the council's financial regulations, which form part of the council's constitution. So really, there's a veerment process that members can consider, and it's most definitely something that I would be presenting to yourselves when we move into the financial reporting, or sorry, the management accounting reporting for 25-26. And it will be a matter for members to decide how that veerment of the excess over and above the actual costs and the 400,000, how that will actually be allocated. It can be allocated within the net budget and can be allocated within the general totality of the total costs of the budget operation for 25-26. So transfer to reserves is one possible avenue that members may choose to move down towards. But members may also choose that if there was a particular budget that required specific funding for a particular reason, members could choose to veer, is the terminology, veer that surplus budget into a particular area. So it's really up to members' decision. And as I said, when we move into financial reporting or the management accounting reporting for 25-26, there will be a proposal or a recommendation made to yourselves in this committee as to how you would plan to deal with that.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Thanks, Chair, and I'm happy to second the report. Can I ask, is it possible even that we would inquire as to whether it is the legal right of the Assembly to hold on to that money? And that if this was earmarked for councils, is there an overriding legal requirement for them to actually divvy it out to the councils? I think we shouldn't let it go by default. I propose that, Chair.
Want to pass over to the Chief Executive here?
No, certainly, Chair. My understanding, I think we can certainly ask the question, is that because of the mechanism in which devolution has been created in Northern Ireland, the funding relationship, if you like, is from Treasury to the Department of Finance. And once it came into the Department of Finance, it was entirely within the gift of the Executive as to where the money went. But I think we could certainly clarify that, and perhaps also, Chair, maybe if Councillor O'Reilly was minded, just the rationale as to why it wasn't applied to councils when it was very clearly that, so while it didn't come with strings from the Treasury, it was clearly identified that a portion of that was meant to go to councils to offset the national insurance costs to defray it from ratepayers.
So that it is on record that we are actually looking for it. And we'll see where it's sort of, we may go nowhere, but at least we shouldn't let it go by default.
Okay, so you're seconding the recommendations of the report, but making that as a proposal. So I'll need a second by Councillor Green. Thank you. Everybody happy with that, or do you want to?
Chair, it was just to make a general comment, maybe just before we leave this item, in response, just firstly, I'm not aware of anything that the council should be doing that we're not doing. And secondly, in relation to the estimate that was prepared around members' allowances, it was based directly on the feedback from both NILGA and the National Association of Councillors, and members will have seen in the report that has been published on the DFC website where those figures actually were drawn from. I know the department and the minister did take a different view, but that was the basis for the estimate.
Okay, thank you. Everybody happy with them proposals? Okay.
Chair, if I could just come in on the back of
that. Very quickly.
Thank you, Chair. And I mean, again, I'll make the point that 400,000, it's almost 1% on the rate. That's 1% on the rate we didn't need to pass. Can I check, Chair, through the Chief Executive, did any other council across Northern Ireland, because, you know, I have my understanding of it, but can the Chief Executive advise whether any other council across Northern Ireland set aside a smaller or a lower amount than 400,000?
Chair, my understanding is councils took differing positions. Some, I wouldn't now be able to identify the sums. Some certainly put a smaller amount, some put a zero amount, and some put a greater amount. And that's what I suppose the decision-making processes within councils allows for.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4.3, and that's to consider the report on the audit panel. Jill.
Chair, thank you. So the purpose of the report is to provide details of the audit panel meeting which took place on the 18th of March. So members will note that the audit panel considered a number of items, including an update on fraud and raising concerns, internal audit reports in 3 areas, and also a review of prior period internal audit recommendations. The panel also considered the annual internal audit report, which reviewed the effectiveness of the internal audit function and overall internal audit assurance statement for the year. So in last year, there were 10 internal audits conducted, all with a satisfactory assurance rating, and that led to the conclusion that overall there was a good standard of audit effectiveness, and the overall governance environment should be categorised as satisfactory. There was also an assessment of the effectiveness of the audit panel and their operation throughout the year. There was an update on the internal audit plan for the forthcoming year, 25-26. There was a detailed update from the Northern Ireland Audit Office on the end of year audit and the external audit strategy for the end of year audit 24-25, and a number of items for correspondence. So the recommendation is that the Council adopts the minutes of the audit panel as presented for the meeting on the 18th of March.
Councillor Green.
Could I take some guidance from the Chief Executive here? I asked a question in the audit panel and of the members, the independent members, and the audit office and everything in relation to how the council was run. Am I allowed to express what was expressed that day? Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically the point I made was that there was a continuous line of questioning, almost doubting, what the council was doing, that whether they were doing it wrongly or they were doing it for whatever motives there was, being deemed by certain councillors. And I was assured categorically that this was one of the best run councils in the north, that they found nothing to be concerned about. They thought our finances was being run extremely well. Great credit was being given to the financial officers and indeed the Chief Executive and all the officers. So sometimes I wish the people that do all the questioning actually had made themselves available when the opportunity arose to actually go onto the audit committee and see just how this council is deemed by the audit office and by our independent members and everything. So I just wanted to express that, I just wanted to ask the question because there is almost an opinion being expressed now or put out in the public that this council has been badly run, and nothing is further from the truth. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I'm happy to propose the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jill, for your report. This is a very positive report, and I think that as a council we can be very reassured by the report of the Audit Committee. And I'm happy to second the noting of the recommendations, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, you've heard the audit report proposed and seconded. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah. Okay. We'll move on to item 4.4. Which is procurement and tenders, and it's over to Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. Members, within the report, there are 3 contracts to be awarded. There are actually 2 tenders to be issued. Apologies for the error, section 1.1, and notification of contracts to be extended. And then the report also includes detail within section 3 of tenders that have been awarded under delegated authority. So, sorry, and including the use as well in that section of procurement frameworks. So subject to any queries, members, the approvals are detailed in section 9.1 of the report to award contracts for the repair and monitoring of CCTV, integrated advice partnership, and that's for debt advice programme, the process and treatment and recycling of rigid plastics, tenders to be issued for stewarding and crowd control for events, the hire of equipment for events, an extension of contracts for the collection and treatment of residual waste, and then noting the tenders awarded, the use of the Crown Commercial Services Framework, and the use of the SCAPE consultancy framework. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. You've heard that procurement and tenders report. Is there any questions? No. Could I have a proposer then? Councillor Donnelly, seconder. Councillor Brown, thank you. Everybody happy? Okay, we'll move on. Donald, can you move the names? It seems to have slipped down. Thank you. Great. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4.5, which is staff matters, and it's over to Thelma.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've two policies for decision here, two policy reviews. So these relate to two policies that we've had in the Council for some time and reviewed recently, the menopause policy and the domestic violence and abuse policy. So following extensive engagement with a range of stakeholders and trade union consultation, we have produced revised policies with, they're attached to Appendix 1A and 1B with track changes, so you can see the amendments that we're proposing. Alongside this, with the approval of the Council, when the policies are adopted, we would aim to run a refresher training and awareness programme for staff in relation to both of these policies and the implications for, obviously, for employees in relation to both. And then at item 3, Chair, we have the Local Government Staff Commission easing for noting. So the recommendations, happy to take any questions or queries on that, are to approve the amendments to the two policies, namely the domestic violence and abuse policy and the menopause policy and guidance, and to note the Local Government Staff Commission easing of March 2025.
Okay, you've heard that report from Thelma. There's nobody indicating, so could I have a proposer, please? Councillor O'Reilly, seconded by Councillor McNulty. Ladies first. Okay, that is the end of the reports. Next, we're on to item number 5, which is correspondence, and the first 5.1 is a letter from the Department of Communities with reference to the Employee Support Scheme.
Chair, thank you. Members will recall we had raised concerns in relation to the proposed changes and lack of funding for the scheme, and really the response that we've received back is acknowledging those concerns, but also advising that this will now be taken forward as part of the EQIA in relation to the department's budget, which has now been confirmed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. And yeah, I'm happy to note this correspondence. And I think just to make the point, given the changes now to disability benefits, I think schemes like this become so much more important to make sure that people that have disabilities are able to contribute and go to work and have the support that they need. So the fact that we're cutting a very important scheme like this at this time just shows a severe lack of responsibility, and I think that the minister that's cutting the scheme needs to think again. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Michael Duff.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's a very good letter sent on our behalf by our Director Jill to the Minister, to Minister Gordon Lyons, and then the response comes back from an official in the department, which is fine, but I think we need to push the boat out a bit further on this. I mean, I'll take guidance on this, but is it in order to request an informal meeting with the Department for Communities, specifically on this subject, retention of the employment support scheme? Councillor Brown has spoken very supportively there. In the last meeting, Councillor Deehan spoke very fulsomely on this issue as well, as did others. But we know real people who participate in this scheme, who benefit from the scheme, but who contribute really well in the workplace. That fourth paragraph there talks about the scheme promotes an inclusive, diverse and equitable culture. That's our letter to the department and to the minister, which can often echo through to society. There's so many positives associated with this scheme, and there's great dignity at the heart of it for those with disabilities who take up this type of employment, supported employment. So we wouldn't want to lose this at all, because we know real people in our communities who are at the heart of this scheme, and it's not that costly a scheme in overall terms. So I'm proposing that we seek an informal meeting with the Department for Communities as another mechanism for communicating the strength of feeling within our council area about this subject. Thank you, Chair.
Are you happy enough to second the recommendations, the noting of the recommendations?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'll take your proposal in a second. Councillor Deehan?
Yes, thank you. Well, I wanted to come in and support the councillors who have spoken on this matter, Chair, and also to second Councillor McElduff's proposal that we seek an informal meeting, really just to put forward our views, as strongly as we can. Councillor McElduff is quite right in what he says, that number one, the scheme does not cost a lot of money, but yet it has a huge impact on the lives of those people who are in receipt of it. Really it contributes very much to their self-esteem, to their self-confidence, to their feeling of being able to contribute positively in the workplace. And I think all those attributes, they cannot be measured in monetary terms. And I think that, it would be worthwhile just meeting up in an informal meeting and just trying to push this point home a little more forcibly, and to really get an explanation as to why this valuable scheme is being pulled despite its low cost and its obvious benefits to the recipients. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, nobody else indicating. You've heard the two proposals for the recommendations and also for Councillor McElduff's proposal. Is everybody happy with those? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. The next item is 5.2, and that is to correspondence from NILGA.
Thanks, Chair. This is really the monthly update from NILGA, although this month there's a specific focus on the local government awards. And I know the Chair at the council meeting had referenced our participation in those. So again, just for noting, please, Chair.
Okay, can I have a proposer to note that, please? Councillor McNulty and Councillor Irvine. Next, we'll go on to 5.3, and that's to note correspondence from South Cambridgeshire County Council regarding the 4-day working week trial. Sorry, Councillor McElduff, do you want to raise your hand up still from last time?
Just briefly, just to point out to other councillors that this month's NILGA executive meeting, myself and Councillor Rainey represent the council on the NILGA executive. It's taken place on Friday in the Grange council offices in Omagh, and I think we're due to receive a SOLAS update maybe from our chief executive in that capacity as well. So, and then I know there's another wider membership meeting of NILGA coming up in the Glenavon in Cookstown, and it might be next week. And the purpose of that meeting sometimes is to take ideas from councillors, and we have numerous councillors on the wider network. Take ideas from councillors as to suitable subjects and topics that might be raised with ministers in the partnership panel meeting that will follow, So there's a fair wee bit of that type of democratic NILGA action in the near future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to 5.4, and that is 5.3, the correspondence from South Cambridgeshire County Council on the 4-day week.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just really for noting, we had been asked by the Council in the context of the motion that we had adopted to follow up with South Cambridgeshire in relation to their experience. They have trialled and implemented these arrangements. So their Chief Executive has responded, really referring us to the website and some of the data that they have collated as part of that, as well as their full Council report, and also remains available and willing to take on any further queries. So just suggesting for noting again, please, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Happy to note the correspondence. And there was an informal meeting with the 4-day week campaign in the last few weeks that a number of the councillors attended, and I thought it was a very interesting briefing that we got. Clearly, there are some benefits to be gained from the 4-day week. It's still, as a concept, in its sort of early days, and we're still in the pilot stage of it. And I think that there are a number of pilots commencing very, very shortly in England, and I would be watching very closely to see what the outcome of those pilots are, because I think that this is something that we will all be seeing in the near future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ruth.
Thanks, Chair, and apologies for my lateness to the meeting. I also would like to second the noting of the letter from the Chief Executive. The report is quite interesting in terms of the overall results, showing I think there's 24 separate indicators, 11 were positive, 11 neutral, and 2 were negative, just slightly. So I mean, it does demonstrate that it is possible to achieve that, that 100% of the work can be done in 80% of the time. If people are supported in the right way. Obviously, the report mentions the complexity with the council basis, in that you can't simply close for one day. It has to be something that is possible throughout the 5-day week or beyond. So yeah, I welcome it. They have mentioned that there's potential need for a longer trial to see what the process would be on a long-term basis. And obviously, you're competing against other areas that maybe going to be starting to provide a 4-day week, or in the opposite, that you're not actually have any competition at the minute, and therefore a 4-day week is quite attractive to maybe some of your top level employees. So I would like to see it on a longer trial. Hopefully that they will continue with it, that we can actually get better data, but it is positive at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard that correspondent noted, proposed and seconded. Everybody happy? Okay, thank you. We will move on to the next, which is 5.4, and that's to correspondence from Sony.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, members will recall we've actually written to Sony separately requesting an opportunity for a briefing to the Council in relation to their grid capacity. So I think this correspondence is maybe crossed that, or they missed each other. This is specifically requesting an opportunity to meet with group leaders. It's obviously entirely up to members, but generally our approach would be that it would be a meeting with the Council. So if members were content, we would respond on that basis, and obviously endeavour to schedule that at a time when Mr Campbell, if he is already coming to the district, is in this area.
Okay. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair, and happy to propose the noting of the letter, and happy to propose meeting with Mr Campbell. I think that'll be very beneficial for us in this area. Thank you.
Can I have a seconder on those proposals, please? Councillor Green. Okay, everybody happy with those? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, there's no other correspondence at 5.5, and I've had no requests for any urgent or relevant business matters. So could I please now have a proposer to go into confidential? Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and Councillor Ruth. Thank you. Wait for the recording. Okay, the recording's back on again, so I'll pass over to Alison to sum up what we discussed in confidential.
Thank you, Chair. While in committee, the committee considered the confidential report on staff matters and agreed with the recommendations, and also considered the confidential report of the Director of Corporate Services and Governance and noted the updates.
Okay, can I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Irvine, seconder. Councillor McNulty. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, everybody. That has brought us to the end of our committee meeting. We will get out into the sun for